What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're also going to be doing the master guide on A2. So a lot of builds, a lot of how you should use your character, a lot of the skills that you should be maybe avoiding instead of using, and the reasoning behind it, guys. So let's get right into it for you here. A2, strictly a damage dealer. She's a chainer. She can chain finish, but there's really no real reason to let her do that as a unit right now in the game. So skills that are important to her: you can use offensive heal combo, though you won't use it nearly as much anymore. It doesn't get a damage mod bonus, so it's literally her weakest attack, and you can only really chain it with her. So you'd be using it maybe to heal up a little bit every once in a while, but that's it. So that's on the back burner. That's a 6-star era skill. Now getting into the 7-star, we have Yorha double slash. This allows you to use avoid heavy attack, dash attack finisher, Hateful Blade, heavy attack, horizontal sweep, Inorganic Blade, offensive heal combo, pet the pod to provoke twice in one turn. Realistically, the only attack you're ever going to really use with this is avoid heavy attack, maybe Inorganic Blade, and then maybe Hateful Blade as well. Outside of that, you don't really want to use any of the other ones. Dash attack, finisher, not that great, guys. So avoid heavy attacks, a 6.0 modifier, boosted up to a 7-point mod, all right, with her level 120 passive. So 7-point mod, or 7.5 times modifier. Chaining skill, it's got an 8-hit skill. It's associated with it. It's an absolute mirror of equity chaining family, so that chaining family is just going to grow and grow and grow and grow as we move into the future of FFBE. It's got a 50% attack and magic break attached to it. Kind of okay, but you should probably have something better than that in your team anyway. That's just going to be your run-of-the-mill bread and butter damaging skill. Okay, another damaging skill that you're going to want to use is Hateful Blade. 3-turn cooldown available on turn 3. Increases physical damage against machine monsters by 100% for 2 turns to the caster, and then physical damage 18 times modifier. It's a 1-hit skill, and you should be able to use avoid heavy attack and then Hateful Blade and chain finish the Hateful Blade for a large damage bonus there, guys. So that's why you really want to use those 2 skills. Inorganic Blade is an interesting one to talk about. It's a 5-turn cooldown available on turn 1. Okay, increase attack and defense by 250% for 2 turns to the caster, and then attack and defense 150% for 3 turns to the caster. Now remember, guys, when you're looking through this stuff on FFBE wiki, it counts the turn you use it as one of the turns. So you get the attack and defense buff for the turn you cast it, and then the next turn you get 250, and then the turn after that it's 150, and then it's gone. So you don't get to like Inorganic Blade and then get 2 turns of a bunch of damage, just 1 turn. It also gives you finisher and heavy attack for a couple of turns there, 6 turns to the caster. No real reason to use those skills. They're not actually better than avoid heavy attack. There's no reason to avoid heavy attack into finisher, like the same modifier. There's no reason to do that really, outside of maybe you're using 2 A2s and you used Hateful Blade on one of them but not the other one. For some reason, you should never really, you know, switch those up. There's no actual reason to be using finisher heavy attack over avoid heavy attack, so that's like a non-factor part of the skill, and then you get auto revive 80%. So because the attack and defense bonus for 250% counts the turn you use it and then the turn next turn, you can use it sometimes, but you don't want to always use this skill because you can dual cast Inorganic Blade into avoid heavy attack. But you could also just avoid heavy attack 2 times on turn 1, and that will be a lot better most of the times, unless you're waiting for an imbue or something. Now, if you want to like prep for more damage on the following turn, that's when you go ahead and use Inorganic Blade. But unless you're doing that, avoid heavy attack times 2 on both your A2s, you know, you and your friends or your chaining partner. That's what you want to do. Now, if your chaining partner also is using like some sort of skill where they, you know, don't attack twice on 1 turn, and it's a huge benefit to them, then that's where you're going to use Inorganic Blade and kind of like match their rotation a little bit. If your friend unit's only attacking 1 time, then you only attack 1 time as well. You pop the Inorganic Blade into avoid heavy attack. You don't need to forcefully always use Inorganic Blade on turn 1 though. No, she's not like CG Hio, she doesn't get triple cast. Pet the pod, a little bit HP and MP restoration, increased limit burst gauge, that's fine. Outside of that, we'll talk about her LB real quick. Her limit burst, Berserk, is a pretty important part of her kit. Berserk 10 times multiplier at max level to all enemies. Increase your attack by 300% for 2 turns to the caster, and then 250% by 5 turns to the caster, and then HP damage 20% for 4 turns. So you get that attack bonus for the turn you cast Berserk, which you've already done your action for the turn, and then the next turn, and then you get that nice 250% after that. Berserk, if you want to min-max the damage you get off Berserk, it'd be really nice if you could incorporate some sort of other way to build a chain in your party, where there'd be like 2 supports using pod 153, or maybe you have like a tank and a healer who can chain together, or a support and a tank who can chain together, or both your tanks, you know, can chain together like Victor and Lilith, something like that, because 10 times multiplier, that's a lot less damage than just double casting to avoid heavy attacks or chaining with someone else, especially if you're using 2 A2s and yours and your friends. The turn you guys both double berserk, because you're going to have probably the limit burst up at the same time. You're doing 2 10 times multipliers. That's it. No chain bonus, nothing crazy. It's a lot less damage than you just doing avoid heavy attack. But if you have another way to build a chain, whether it's pod supports or like we just mentioned, you get the chain bonus on there. Then now you're casting 2 40 times multipliers. That's a lot stronger than just 2 raw dog 10 times multiplier. You don't want to do that sort of thing. And then you get to do even more damage after that with a nice 300 and 250% attack bonuses. So that's really what you want to try to do when building a team comp around her, is have that ability to a double chain finish berserk, guys. Other things that you don't really want to do, like finish a 6 times multiplier. Okay, cool. It gets the 1.5 times mod, so it's exactly the same time. It's exactly the same modifier as avoid heavy attack, so there's no reason. You can do it for style points, get in there with the finisher after you avoid heavy attack and chain finish, but it doesn't really matter because your second avoid heavy attack is already at max multiplier anyway, so there's literally no difference in damage there. Of heavy attack is just 3.3 times modifier. That's the old one, literally called heavy attack, not avoid heavy attack. So no reason to actually, make yourself use finisher. It's not that big of a deal. There's literally no change in damage there. So let's get into some of the builds for you here. And there's a lot of them that we need to go through here, guys, all right? So we're going to be using FFBE Equip again. Fantastic site. Thank you so much for making it. And the Ligard. If I didn't butcher your name, props to me. If I butchered it, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. But we're going to be going over several builds, non-super TMRs, some with TMRs, dual wield, double hand, all that true double hand, bunch of different stuff for you guys to figure out here. So in the important thing, like we said before in the 2B guide, if you watch that one, 1.0 physical damage, attack damage. What this means is for every 1 multiplier, right, in the skill you're using or limit burst you're doing, you're going to be doing X amount of damage with this build. All right, this is before imperils, this is before chaining mods, anything like that. So we'll talk about it, but this will give you a general idea of how to compare the builds damage-wise between each other, and if there's any subtle discrepancies that aren't shown in the calculator, I'll let you know. For example, the calculator, if you're using a dual-wield build, already takes into account that you are using 2 weapons, and you're going to hit 2 times. Now, if you're going to be, with A2, she's got dual cast. If you use a double hand build, the calculator doesn't know that A2 is going to always be double casting a skill, right, twice. So you'll have to like double that by 2, whatever number's showing up. So this is going to be the non-super TMR dual wield A2 build. It's going to be using Beastlord and Brotherhood. I have Brotherhood in here because there's a sword. It opens up some weapon mastery passives here, like Heroes Vow Dark, TF29 Agent gets that plus 30% attack, Lord of the Underworld. Pretty good there as well. And then in addition to that, Brotherhood's one of the elements in the game that's pretty easy to get an outside imperil for. From a support, like we have like CG Folka and units like that who are like healers. And for example, Folka just has a 75% water imperil just in her kit that she can do for you. So your healer will be able to imperil for you. Stuff like that's always what you want to be keeping an eye out for when looking at units who need an external imperil or an imbue. So Brotherhood's on here, Prish Hairpin, Hero's Clothes, Colorful Lay ×2, Lord of the Underworld, Heroes Vow Dark, TF29 Agent in an open materia slot. All of these builds are going to be using a 250% attack buff since it's not too hard to get that up. She's got High Tide in her kit, so her limit burst is pretty easy to gain access to. You can start with her cooldown skill if you want to. I said you don't always need to, but this is really for Berserk. That's when A2 starts getting strong. So attack is 2,845, 300,009 damage per 1.0 physical attack multiplier with this build. It is missing a materia slap, but that's because you're already over the attack cap. We're at 424% attack and 80% true dual wield. Now the next build is going to be a build that is also using super TMRs, but guess what? It's not that different. So this one's Beastlord, Thunder God's Sword, Scanning Goggles, Luna's Clothes, Double Colorful Lay, TF29 Agent, Loyal General, Gentle Trader, excuse me, and the Subservient, guys. So this one is 332,000 per multiplier. Not that much stronger than the old dual wield build, the non-super TMR one we literally just went over. So not that big of a deal. Just leave it there, set it, let it, forget it, So not that big of a deal. You can see she only gains 30,000 multipliers worth of damage for adding some much more harder to get gear, I guess is the word I'm trying to use here. So let's go for a double hand build. This is actually using Tinitrus, not even Beastlord here. So Tinitrus is going to be good for you, and the one you're going to want to be using if you don't have a way to imbue your A2, guys. So I know Beastlord gives her that 150% double hand, super strong, but it doesn't have an element associated with it. So if you don't have an imbue for her, you're going to want to fall back to the Tinitrus build. So you go Tinitrus, Precious Hairpin, Heel Clothes, Double Glove, Buster Style, Large Sword Mastery, Proud Fencer, Adventurer 5. All right, and this is where the small caveats of A2 come into play. Like if you don't have an imbue, you don't really want to use Beastlord because you don't have an element, right? But if you don't have your Beastlord on, you're missing 150% double hand. Okay, so it's gonna make it so you need Martial Glove and Buster Style, which kind of takes away from the A2's really easy to build sort of a theme that she has going on with her. She's easier to build if you have some sort of imbue for her. If she doesn't, you know, have that imbue, then it gets a little bit harder to build her. So this is the build where it's a little bit harder to build her, but you don't need an imbue. 2,996 attack, 182,000 multipliers worth of damage, all right, per multiplier. But remember, she can dual cast, so you basically double this number. This is 360,000 damage per multiplier. So even the Tinitrus build beats out her super TMR'd out crazy dual wield build. So dual wield, not really the way to go with her. I just wanted to put it in there for you guys who wanted to take a look at the dual wield build. Now let's get into the Beastlord build. All right, we just talked about it. Beastlord, Precious Hairpin, Heel Clothes, colorful lay. This could be Desh's earring. It doesn't need to be colorful lay. You're not dual wielding here. The builder just put the lay in there for 45 attack for some reason. Martial Glove, Large Sword Mastery, Proud Fencer, Instinctual Guard, Adventurer 5. All right, this gets you to 372% attack, 300% double hand. This is with the 250% attack buff. She hits 3,141 attack, 200,770 attacks worth of damage per multiplier. Okay, so it is vastly superior to the Tinitrus build by 20,000, but vastly superior to this build. Right? Another 70k over top of that. This is just with the Beastlord. Now, like I said, if you want to build her this way with the Beastlord, you're gonna have to imbue her. Okay, you're gonna want to imbue her for that elemental imperil. Right, 50 to 100% depending on who you can bring for the imperil and the elemental chaining capabilities. So very easy to build. You only need some sort of single piece of double hand or true double hand. Doesn't have to be Martial Glove. You can even use double hand from bards. You swap your gear around, but it's just something to aim for. This is the best non-super TMR'd version of the Beastlord build, guys, and it is pretty strong. 200,000 damage per multiplier. Now, swapping from the non-elemental Beastlord build to an actual true double hand Lionheart non-elemental build. So this is going to be very similar to the Tinitrus build, but this one assumes that you also have an imbue to imbue her with. All right, so this actually does give you more damage than the Beastlord build. It's very similar to the Beastlord build. You swap the Beastlord out for a Lionheart, Precious Hairpin, Heel Clothes, Double Martial Glove, Swift Hunter, Buster Style, Tomb Raider, and a Large Sword Mastery. So Tomb Raider, time limited thing. Maybe it'll come back, but this is just here for right now. I include it because it's not a super TMR. And some people may have it, some people may not. But you can see that it actually outdamages the Beastlord build, but not by a whole bunch. Only by 33,000 damage worth per multiplier. So nothing super insane, and is much harder to gain access to this build. It's got time limited TMR in there. It's got true double hand Buster Style, Martial Glove, and it only beats it by 30k. So keep that in mind. And the only difference I wanted to make this build and show it to you between this one and the Tinitrus build is the fact that one of them is using Tinitrus for the element, and the other one's using Lionheart basically with a Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider wouldn't, you know, you can use it doesn't really matter, but it's 60k, 50k, 60k almost worth more damage per multiplier as long as you have an imbue. So if you have Lionheart, you can imbue somebody. You can see where we're going down the road, right? So let's go to the next build. Bahamut's here. If you have access to this, it's the best of both worlds, all right? So if you gain access to a two-handed greatsword, doesn't need to be Bahamut tier, but this is the power of a two-handed elemental greatsword. We'll be able to gain access to a light elemental one eventually one day through quests. But this is Bahamut tier lightning elemental two-handed greatsword. The only one in the game right now that's a two-handed greatsword that's elemental. Scanning Goggles, Heel Clothes, Gothic Amulets, the Super T-Mars, but you can just use Martial Gloves, it's only a little bit less attack. Buster Style, Loyal General, Swift Hunter, General Trader. So if you can Super T-Mar out the butt, 3,350 attack with her own 250% attack buff up, 296,000 damage in attack per multiplier. So this is by far the best thing so far. Blows the Lionheart one out of the water. It's already got lightning element on it, and you'll get a little bit more damage on those berserk turns due to the Bahamut Tears, Bahamut passive, the 1.3 times multiplier there. So that's gonna be pretty strong there as well. And you don't have to worry about the imbue, like we said. You just need some sort of external lightning imperil for you. Is there anything that could beat this build? And yeah, on average there is. Now this build is a non-super TMR'd fixed dice build, and on average it'll beat it while you have the attack buff up of the fully decked out super TMR'd Bahamut tier build. All right, so let's take a look at the requirements for this build. Fixed dice, Precious Hairpin, Heel Close, Double Martial Glove, Swift Hunter, Buster Style, Adventure 5, Instinctual Guard. Downsides of this build is that if you don't have the attack buff up, your damage numbers actually fall really far, because A2 doesn't have any true double hand passives. She doesn't have any sort of attack passives really that don't include greatsword, spears, or fist weapons. She has one attack passive that's just attack plus 30%. The rest of them are if you're using like spears or fist weapons or whatever. But fixed dice can still be an incredibly strong option for you. This does beat out the super TMR'd one on average, as long as you have it in imbue while the attack buff's up. If you do not have the attack buff up though, if you compare them with no attack buffs in either, this is 144k and this is 191k. So it definitely loses without that attack buff up. If you give them both a 300% buff, this one goes all the way up to 362k. This one goes to 320k. So now it starts to outpace it pretty well on average. You'll probably do equal or less damage around 30% of the time. 70% of the time you'll do more, but that's because we're comparing a TMR'd build versus a super TMR'd build, and A2 really wants to use great swords, so fixed dice isn't always the best option on her. But if you go for like a super TMR'd out version of her, we have fixed dice, Scanning Goggles, Luna's Clothes, Double Gothic Amulet, Subservient, Swift Hunter, Buster Style, and Adventurer 5. With her 250% attack buff up, this is like the most risky build in the entire game, I think. But not really, it's not that risky. Her attack stat goes up to 2,280, and her attack damage per multiplier goes up all the way up to 407,281 on average, guys. So that's a lot there. The things that really catapult this build to the sky are the Subservient and the Luna's Clothes. Those are the two things that help this build out the most in getting raw attack, because before she was relying on 40% attack materia. The Gothic Amulets are nice, but they're only 10 plus more attack over the Martial Gloves. I know in the end they're another 40 per slot, so it's another 80 attack right there, but the Subservient is really strong, and the Luna's Clothes having that 45 flat attack is super amazing there. It's basically worth both Gothic Amulets. The Scanning Goggles helps a little bit, but isn't like super strong. It's like 7 more attack flat. And it's got the killers, which is nice. 407,000 damage on average per multiplier. So if you compare this to the old, that's the Lionheart build. To the old Bahamut tier build, 250% here. It was just shy of 300k. So this is 100k on average. So this build will be more in line of like the 12 to 15% of the time you'll do equivalent damage to an equally RNG'd rolled build on the Bahamut tier build. So most of the time you're going to out damage that build as long as you have an imbue and an imperil. They both need the imperil. This build just needs the imbue. Now if you do somehow, you go for the berserk into I'm going to destroy you, right? Because A2 can do a lot of burst damage with this build. You get the berserk pass, you use your limit burst, and the next turn you chain with a void heavy attack, and then you go for the Hateful Blade chain finish, right? You want as much attack as possible with that 300% attack buff, 455k damage per multiplier, which Hateful Blade is that 18 times multiplier. You can chain finish it, 72 times multipliers worth of damage. There's gonna be a lot of damage for you to be doing with that skill if you can get the imbue up, get the buff up. And if you go through the moon using Zargobath, right? You use Zargobath in there, we'll get ready, which is also really good for her because Zargobath can, Octoslash chain with maybe someone else, maybe pod chain, so you can chain finish your limit bursts on your A2. And then when you go to do the old Inorganic Blade, not Inorganic Blade, but avoid heavy attack into Hateful Blade chain finish, you can berserk her on top of her own buff because berserk is a status element. Get her up to 2,808 attack, and you go up to 617,759 damage per multiplier. Chain finish that Hateful Blade that 72 times multiplier and blow something away, right? If you get super lucky, you can high roll it, but we're talking about the averages here. If you high roll it, you go over 1,000,000 damage per multiplier, but if you average roll it, that's still an insane amount of damage there. Crazy, crazy, crazy damage. Beats out anything by far that you can do with this character 95% of the time. So variance, not really. When you're doing more damage 95% of the time than an equivalently RNG'd roll to your second best in slot build, it's not really that variance at all, in my opinion. I mean, it's just kind of math, but insane build. That's something you can do with her. If you really love A2 and you have a Zargabath and you want to have some A2 friends, you want to have some fun, she can do consistent damage, and then she also has the ability to do some really nice burst later over time. So maybe in some future 10-mans or some trials like that, something you can work towards there as well. So that's gonna be the master guide for A2. I hope you guys enjoy the builds and how they're set up. I'll have them once again in the description below for you guys to check them out. I don't really have a what this unit is good with as sort of a teammate sort of thing. I just kind of talk about it during the video when it's brought up, when it's needed for certain aspects of the character, like A2 wanting to chain finish her limit burst and sort of things that you need to be able to bring there. Outside of that though, I think I like the way the guides are going. If you want to see something added to the guides, let me know, because I'm going to be doing a series like this. I'm going to have 3 of them already made because we're going to Fan Festa this week. So I'm going to have the 2B1 and A2 ones come out today. And I haven't done the Frivia one yet, but I wanted to set it aside and do it after the data mine in case there's some things I wanted to talk about with Aurora Frivia, because I think Aurora Frivia might be in the data mine files coming out tonight. It makes sense that she's added to the game, so when they give her away in a couple of days at Fan Festa, they don't have to do another patch to add her into the game, because all you guys are gonna be able to use her as friend units, so she has to be in the game for everybody, not just people who go to the Fan Festa. I would assume that's how that works. It just makes sense to me. So that one's coming out as well, but let me know what you guys want to see. Thanks for hanging out with me. Leave a like. Thank you for all the support. Hit it up with your friends. Subscribe for more future content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.